Welcome back to the foundry. Okay, today's little episode is going to be making all-purpose sand. This is going to be synthetic sand. If you watch the episode or the video on sands, you'll see, or you'll remember that synthetic sands, as opposed to natural bond sands, are sands that us human beings take the different ingredients and put them together ourselves and make molding sand after a lot of experimentation. Whereas natural bonded sand is the sand you'd find in a big hill of sand that has X amount of clay in it by natural means, natural erosion and natural weathering, and that's what they used to use when the very first time they started making sand molds. They found a nice big pile of sand somewhere, found out that it would stick together when they put water in it, and then they would make the sand, make the molds with that sand. Well, they found out that it wasn't good to have all those other things in there, like the little bits of dead animals and little bits of vegetation and all that. So they decided to clean up the sand real good and then add the right amount of sand after much experimentation that would make a good mold. And this is what we're going to be doing today. We're not going to be experimenting. We already know, I already know by way of the books and stuff I have, exactly what I need to do to put together. Okay, so all-purpose sand, your basic formula, if you don't remember from the other video, is 95% sand, clean washed sand. In this case, sand that I got from Home Depot. It's a nice fine grained sand. Didn't have to worry about it being too coarse for making castings. The clay that I got is a Western bentonite that I got from a company called, and I'll have to remember it in a minute. Okay. And then with the clay, you put 5% of whatever your mixture is. And I see the percentages are the weight that you're doing. For instance, I found that I had in a box, or rather in a bucket, a plastic bucket, I had 60 pounds of the sand from Home Depot. Okay. So I did my little bit of the algebra and found out that the weight that I need to have for clay is 3 pounds. Okay, that together would make the 63 pounds that X came out to when I've tried to figure out what the totality of the mixture was going to be. And then after that totality of the mixture is put together, you add 3 pounds in this formula. You add 3 pounds of water, and you mix it for 5 minutes dry. Put the water in. You try to sprinkle the water in. You don't try and put it all in one blast, because you want to try and separate it, or rather spread it out as much as possible so it mixes as quickly as possible. If you just had a big glob of sand and clay bunched together surrounded by a bunch of dry sand, it's going to take some while for that to bust up and redistribute. Okay, so make sure that when you're making this sand, you sprinkle it in, put it in bits, and you're going to be helping your mixture along. Okay, and so when you're mixing the water in, you just continue to mix it until it's thoroughly mixed throughout the sand mixture, and then it'll be ready. Now, how to test this? See if you have just the right amount of water. If you don't believe the formula, for instance, then you're going to just stop, get a handful, squeeze it, and then when you let it go, if it maintains the inside curvature of your hand, if it stays like that, you got good sand. Okay. And so what I'll do is I'll start mixing this stuff up, and darn if I can remember that other company. Now I'm not being paid by that other company to mention their name. I just would rather be able to tell you exactly where I got it, so it's easier for you to get to. It just seems like heck to get these different ingredients. Like for instance, I would much rather have made Petrobond sand, okay? But the company that puts out the Petrobond powder and the P1 catalyst, well, apparently they don't know about backyard molders, or they don't care about backyard molders, or they have only just enough salesmen to go around to service all the foundries that would give them tens of thousands of dollars for their materials. Okay, I tried to get in touch with the local area salesman. Now that just right by itself ought to tell you something. An area salesman. Okay, they're not interested, or apparently they're not interested in little tiny bits. They want hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of sales. If I'm wrong, once you went to their website, they would have it set up like any of the other websites where you can just tell them what you want, pay by way of credit card or whatever you use. And it's not that way. They make it awful hard. Makes you just not want to buy it from them. I spent 20 years using Petrobond sand. Love Petrobond sand. There was a short time when I was out in San Diego in the shore-based foundry out there where we used the sand I'm going to be making now. So it's not like I don't have some experience in using that sand, but Petrobond sand is much easier to work with. Okay. By the way, my brain's finally made all the connections, and the company that we got the bentonite from was called Bulk Apothecary. Apothecary.com. Okay, they got all kinds of different types of clays, and stuff for making soaps and stuff for making beauty masks and all. That's basically all that stuff is for, is all the health stuff that you can make on your own. But I saw that they were selling bentonite, so I bought 50 pounds of it. Okay, very easy to do, not like trying to buy Petrobond powder, and they got my money. Whereas the company who sells Petrobond powder, unless they make allowances for the growing population of backyard molders and foundrymen, they're not going to get anybody's money except for the big companies. That's up to them. It's their product. Anyway, so here I'm going to be doing. I got my sand weighed out. I'll be weighing out my the water, and I'll be weighing out the clay, and then I'll start mixing it. And I'll go ahead and set you guys, or pause this the camera here while I start weighing all this stuff out, and I'll be right back. Alrighty then. Now it's time to, now that I've got at least one batch of sand weighed out, and the clay and the water, I can put this together. Okay. Keep this from going all over. I'm going to put the cover on and just let it rotate a couple of rotations so that it spreads out. Then I can put the clay in there. Okay. Well, the color of this is not going to be so radically different like when I showed you the cement mixture, but we're going to let it mix real good anyway. Alright, she's sealed up. I'll get my little timer, and the people who wrote up this formula recommend that you have it mull for 3 minutes before you put the water in. Obviously, I don't have the money to buy a muller. I also don't have the money to get my house set up for 3-phase power. So, realizing how our predecessors in the trade used to mix the sand, and if you didn't see the thing about sands, what they used to do is they used to take the sand that they were going to mix up, pile it in a furrow, you know, kind of a long hill, split it down the middle, put the clay in that split down the middle they wanted to add to the sand, mixed it by hand until it looks well mixed, and then put the water in there and tempered it with the water until it acted like it was a good molding sand. I think even though I'm more or less back in the days where it's being mixed by hand, this is going to be doing a better job of mixture than my hands would, okay? And as long as I don't get impatient and shut this thing off to add the water too soon, this will be, all the grain sands in here will be thoroughly coated by the powdered clay, and it'll be a very nice sand, okay? But, okay, now I did say, they said to let it mull at least 3 minutes. Myself, I prefer to give it a couple of extra, just in case. So I'm putting it on 5 minutes. If it doesn't mix well in 5 minutes, it's probably not going to mix at all. I mean, not good enough at all. So, knowing how noisy this thing is, I'm going to go ahead and let it do its thing, and then I'll bring you back after it's done its mixing. Okay, so this has gone through its 5 minutes of mixing. Yep, it looks like they're all put together. They're all connected, mixed well. Okay, so now, see, I got my little watering can. Believe it or not, this is exactly what they used back 100 and some odd years ago, like during the British Industrial Revolution. Just use regular old gardening watering cans. There. can see that it's already starting to work because the little clay balls are starting to form. All right, a little bit more. Now I realize I'm turning this on while the camera's on. I'm just letting you, one, realize why I didn't leave it on during the 5 minutes, because of its noise, and also I want to try and get the water in there as quick as I can, you know, the proper amount, and then once that's done, I'll put the lid back on, let it go for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then check it after that. Hopefully, by the time all that's done, the clay balls will have busted apart, redistributed the water throughout the rest of the dry stuff, and then it'll be ready to be molding sand. Now I've got this the weight, the scale set up to where I pour in 3 pounds and it'll be even. So I gotta check it pretty often now that I've done it for a little bit. Still a little bit much. Oh yeah, a lot more of the clay balls are forming. All right, I've got the amount I need, 3 pounds for this setup, because remember, this isn't just 50 pounds, and it's not half of the 100-pound batch. It's a little bit more, so I had to mathematically, you know, get it the right amounts. But now I've got everything put together. I got to put the lid back on. This thing is starting to swell. Yeah. Time to work on this a little more. What I wanted to do is, you know, wanted to have a nice tight cover so all the sand and all the clay powder and, you know, doesn't get all into the air and go all over whatever I own and make it all sticky. Didn't want that to happen. So I made this, but it looks like the wooden material I'm using as a ledge here is starting to swell. So I'm going to have to trim that a little more. But I'll let this run for a little while, and I'll put the camera back on so you can see how it looks. See, now the sand's been going for like 15 minutes. I came out and looked at it. Very few clay balls. This is what that is, a clay ball. And you see how this is nice and loose and soft, right? You put it under pressure like you're ramming up, and see how it stays that shape. That's what you want for molding sand. Okay? That's your test. It stays that shape of the inside of your hand as you squeeze it. It's very good. Now when I went into my little office to see, you can't even find out where to buy Petrobond powder anymore. The big companies that are listed, when you try and search for Petrobond powder, they say, well, okay, we got 5 warehouses full of foundry supplies. But yeah, but what's foundry supplies? Which foundry supplies? They don't say that. Okay, irritating as heck. This was a piece of cake. Sand, Home Depot. The clay, bulkapothecary.com had plenty of it. Easy to buy. They sent it to us right away. I got it within 2 or 3 days of my ordering it. Not a problem. Mixer, kind of a cheap mixer, makes a lot of noise, but I got this from Harbor Freight, under $200. All right, a regular muller, even a 150-pound batch muller, which would be plenty good for what I use it for. What I would use it for is in the thousands of dollars. Okay, granted, it does a much better job at mulling sand, and it makes your sand ready faster than a mixer like this. But you gotta kind of figure what's more important. You want to make sand fast, or you want to make sand period and not have to take out a loan from the bank or the credit union. And so here's the easy thing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the well, actually I'm going to put it back in the bucket and put a cover over it so it doesn't dry out on me while I'm getting ready for a project. And going to make another batch of sand, and then I'll have plenty of sand to fill up my flask for almost anything I want to make. And the next video that I make is going to be on how to make a mold. Okay, now I'm not talking a 300, 400 pound mold. I'm talking about something you can make on your molding bench. The only reason why I even thought about making these videos is because of the huge errors that people who are trying to make molds have made. Okay, and now the only reason why I say huge errors is because of what I know. They may have seen a little bit in a book, or just tried to, by guessing by golly, figure out a way to pour molten metal into a mold and make things. But my gosh, well, you'll find out. The things that they made came out fairly decent, but they had all kinds of casting defects in them. And the ones that I saw, they're homemade stuff. They're not expected to be perfect. But if you watch the videos that I put out that are specifically on making molds, your castings are going to come out 1,000% better. You're making basic mistakes that nobody ever taught you how to overcome, and these steps that I take in making a mold, each and every one is aimed towards making the very best casting you can, no matter what the material you're pouring. Okay, so please, if you can watch any video that I put out, watch the ones that has to do with making molds and using gating systems. Okay, the rest of the videos will supplement your knowledge and make you making castings even better yet. Okay, you could probably even set yourself up in a regular foundry. Make your own stuff for selling. At the very least, make plaques for selling. You don't see sand plaques, or rather sand molds, making plaques much anymore because everybody's buying plastic. you know, the cast plastic, and the ones that are metal are made out of pot metal, you know, a zinc alloy that's injected into a stainless steel mold, and the stainless steel molds, when they're made, look perfect. They're as smooth as a baby's behind because somebody made them out of stainless steel and machined them. All right. Sand is not as smooth as a baby's butt, but it's much less expensive and much faster to use than to try and wait for somebody, a machinist or tool and die maker somewhere to make you a stainless steel mold. All right. So that's how to, the reason why I made this for making sand, piece of cake. Okay, very, very easy. Follow the formulas, mix it well, and you'll have the sand you need to make molds. All right. And this, you know, I didn't make this for those guys who work in a big foundry or even in a well-equipped foundry that have mullers and make sand all the time. I made this for the guy who, hey, you know, a hobbyist who wants to make something out of molten metal, but just doesn't know how to make the stuff required to make the molds. All right, this is why this has been made. Now, basically, you've seen everything that you need to see. You know the formula. All right, let me say it again. The formula for making this sand, general purpose sand, meaning that you can make, you can pour any kind of metal in this sand. The formula is 95% sand, 5% bentonite clay, 5% water. Now the percentage wise, that's the weight, okay? So if you were making 100 pounds of sand, you would use 95 pounds of sand. You would add to that 5 pounds of bentonite clay. And after you have your 100-pound batch all mixed up thoroughly, you would add 5 pounds of water. All right? That's the whole formula. It's easy as can be. You just don't jump the gun. You let it mix thoroughly, and you'll have molding sand. The next video is going to be, and by the way, you do get dirty and sandy. The next one is going to be me over here at my molding bench making a little trinket that I've been wanting to make for a while that'll, you know, help me scrape the crap off my dirty dishes. All right? So, see you next time, and Liberty Call.